Tesla is known for their insanely quick cars, impressive screens, Elon Musk's Twitter feed, and their self-driving technology. But behind that curtain of impressive stats and fun gadgets lurk some surprising issues that make it hard for me to recommend their vehicles. Hello people of the internet, I'm Nico, and today I'll be telling you about my experience with Tesla, some of the issues I've seen, and why it's hard for me to recommend their cars. First, before I rag on Tesla, I actually quite like what they've managed to do in terms of popularizing the electric car and also accelerating the rest of the industry to make their own EVs. Tesla makes great vehicles, but based on certain circumstances and my own experiences, I can't recommend their cars to just anyone. I want to start off with the Tesla app, which is a brilliant idea, but as is with every software, there are some bugs in the system, and one of those bugs was with the summon feature. If you don't know, Smart Summon is a feature that allows you to make your Tesla drive to your location by tracking your phone's GPS signal. There are some limitations, you can't make it drive to you from across town, but for very short distances it is quite useful. Imagine you're at the front of a store on a rainy day and you don't want to get wet carrying your groceries. This would be a classic case to use the app to make the car drive to you. The issue I had with it was that it simply didn't work. The phone didn't want to connect from a bit over 100 yards away, it was just buffering for minutes on end, and when within 100 yards of the car, it simply said that we were too close and had to walk. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for staying in shape and having a healthy body, but the feature is there for a reason, and that is to make the car come to me, not for it to tell me that I'm lazy and need to walk myself. Still on the Tesla app, the next issue I encountered was that the car didn't want to unlock from the phone. No matter what we tried, spamming the unlock button in the app, phone restart, whatever, nothing worked. We ended up having to use the little Tesla key card to unlock the car. This is not an issue for anyone who always uses the key card, but the feature is there for a reason, and it's not to lock me out of my own car. Imagine there's an emergency. Say you're at home and your wife is at the hospital and goes into labor. Suddenly the car doesn't want to unlock and you end up missing the moment where the baby comes out, and you would see that the kid looks more like your best friend than you. It was that moment, not the childbirth, the car failing to unlock, where I named that specific Tesla Tinkerbell the temperamental Tesla Model Y. I don't think the owner was overly fond of that nickname, I'll be honest. Moving on from the Tesla app, one other thing I took issue with was Autopilot, or at least two aspects of using it. Firstly, when Autopilot is engaged, you have to let the car know that you are still present and paying attention. Clearly a good thing, but some cars are very clever about it and have cameras to watch your eyes or have capacitive touch steering wheels, but not Tesla. Instead, you have to give a little wiggle to the wheel, a large enough wiggle for the car to recognize it, but a small enough wiggle that the car doesn't think you're swerving and then disengages Autopilot. That was an issue, trying to find the right amount of wiggle, but the larger issue is that if Autopilot disengages too many times during a drive, the car won't allow you to use Autopilot for some time. It's not really Tesla's fault, as it's technically user error, and this can be mitigated by simply being in control of the vehicle at all times. But when there's what is effectively a safety system in the car, I want it to be fully functional with no ifs, buts, and maybes. And most safety tech is like this, but Autopilot is one of the features in Tesla's arsenal that is technically a work in progress. And the other issue with Autopilot that I encountered clearly proves that this is still a work in progress. Here's what happened. All was fine and well. Tinkerbell, the temperamental Tesla Model Y, was keeping us in our lane on the multi-lane highway we were on, going around the corners as it should, using the curb and the lane lines to keep it self-centered, until it got confused. In one of the corners there was an exit ramp that curled away from the road, and there were no lines to section off that ramp from the road we were on. And I guess Teslas are programmed to follow the curb instead of lane lines, because Tinkerbell went onto the ramp thinking it was the road we were following. So now we were barreling onto an exit ramp we weren't expecting to suddenly take, and had to swerve back into the lane to avoid hitting the median ahead. Now, I can understand the decision to make the car default to following the curb versus the lane lines, but if it had used the built-in navigation system to learn what was ahead of what the cameras can see, then the car could have known that there was an exit ramp to the right and had instead then followed the lane lines that were to the left. Some blame obviously has to go to the people that decided to not draw lines at the exit ramp. But at the same time, the car already knows exactly what is ahead thanks to the built-in navigation system, so I don't see why the car can't anticipate how it needs to react as the roads change. This brings me back to the whole I want the safety features to work with no ifs, buts, and maybes. You don't see things like traction control being brought out commercially while it's still a work in progress. By the time it comes out, it is a tried and true, well-tested safety feature, and unfortunately Tesla's Autopilot is not. I recognize that autopilot is far more complex than traction control, but that is all the more reason for it needing to be fully functional before it's commercially available. In conclusion, a lot of the features either have some small bugs or are by no means fully developed and ready to be commercially available. A lot of those features are effectively in a testing phase where, while they are being constantly improved, the testing is being done more by the consumers than the manufacturer. On Tesla's side, I can see that it is a cheaper, quicker, and easier way to collect a lot of data on how the systems perform. But on the other hand, when the features can result in a crash, make the car unusable, or simply an annoyance to customers, it makes it very difficult for me to recommend a Tesla to anyone. Then there is also the charging infrastructure, or rather the lack thereof, which plagues all EVs and with that Teslas. So recommending an EV is hard enough as is, and with some of the concerning issues that Teslas have, I will simply refrain from recommending any of them. The thing is though that I like EVs. I like how they drive, especially in stop-start city traffic, and if they get the latest braking technology first, a braking system that has no ABS, then I will be far more open to buying an EV. And yes, I said no ABS, and you will have to wait for my next video, so subscribe to see that when it comes out. I want to know, what are your experiences with EVs, and what would make you choose an EV over a gas car? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, people of the internet, peace out. Editor's note, hello everyone. I wanted to give a special shout out to my anonymous friend of the channel, Disappointment Squared. He was the one who actually recorded all the clips of the Tesla driving around and whatnot. So yeah, I wanted to say special shout out to him for doing that for me. That was great. If you want to check out his channel, I'll have a link to it in the description. There's various videos on stuff like moose goo and why you shouldn't move to California. So if you want to see those kinds of videos explaining that, but with like kind of simple but goofy animations, then I recommend checking his channel out. But yeah, special shout out to him. Thanks a lot for that, and yeah, peace out.